David and Jennifer were what many would call the perfect couple. Young, successful, and deeply in love, they built a life full of achievements and joy together. With 3 children, Thomas, the responsible and studious one, Donald, the dedicated athlete, and Justin, the sensitive youngest child, they formed a family admired by everyone around them. David worked at a bank and was not only the financial provider but also the backbone of the family. Jennifer, on the other hand, worked at a pharmaceutical company and skillfully balanced her career and motherhood. They were a team, a shining example of partnership. On weekends, their country house was the perfect retreat. A place where laughter echoed, board games filled the nights, and the children ran freely through the gardens. Barbecues brought friends together, conversations lasted late into the night, and every corner of that house seemed to hold a happy memory. However, happiness often seems so solid that we forget how fragile it can be. It was during one of those weekends, surrounded by friends and family, that David crossed a line he should never have crossed. He became involved with a friend of the couple, someone who attended the same gatherings, shared the same laughter, and ironically also had a family to protect. The mistake began as something small, almost imperceptible. A lingering glance, a whispered conversation, a late-night message. But it quickly grew into something devastating. When the truth came out, there was no way to turn back. Jennifer didn't just lose her husband. She lost trust in herself, in the people around her, and for a while in life itself. With a single decision, David turned a home filled with love into a field of ruins. What once seemed like an unshakable foundation was shattered, leaving deep wounds in everyone, wounds that would take years to heal. This is a story that reminds us how wrong choices can devastate entire lives and how, even in the face of immense suffering, hope can still exist. For 2 decades, David and Jennifer were the foundation of a family overflowing with love and togetherness. Every decision, every effort, was made with the well-being of their 3 children in mind, children who filled them with pride. Thomas, with his dedication to his studies, was a model of discipline and ambition. Donald, always energetic and determined, excelled in sports and embodied enthusiasm. And Justin, the youngest, had a heart full of sweetness and a sensitivity that touched everyone around him. Despite their demanding work schedules, David and Jennifer made it a point to be present in their children's lives. Family movie nights, meals around the table, and weekends at the country house were more than just leisure moments. They were the glue that held their special bonds together. The country house in particular held a unique place in the family's story. It was there that everyday worries disappeared, replaced by sunny afternoons and starry nights. Friends were frequent visitors, and every barbecue brought new laughter and memories. It was a sanctuary, a symbol of what their life represented: love, unity, and happiness. But the same place that housed so many joyful moments became the stage for a devastating betrayal. At the peak of his career and confidence, David began to feel invincible. He believed his perfect life could never be shaken, and that false sense of control opened the door to his mistake. The woman he got involved with was also part of that close-knit circle of friends. She had a husband, a young child, and was so close to the family that it seemed unthinkable for something like this to happen. Yet the discreet meetings, the conversations full of double meanings, and the moments of hidden complicity created a forbidden bond. For David, it might have felt like a temporary escape, something he thought he could control. But secrets have a cruel way of surfacing, and this one was no exception. When Jennifer discovered the betrayal, her world collapsed. It wasn't just the marriage that was destroyed. Jennifer lost more than a husband. She lost faith in the people she trusted, in the friend who betrayed her, and for a time even in herself. The man she loved, the father of her children, had thrown everything away for a moment of weakness. The impact was immediate and immense. Jennifer felt the weight of disappointment, abandonment, and humiliation. It was as if the life she had so carefully built had been shattered before her eyes, and she didn't know how to pick up the pieces. Jennifer's decision to file for divorce was like ripping off the bandage from an open wound. She knew it was the only way forward, but it didn't make the pain any easier to bear. With custody of the 3 children, the responsibility that was already great became almost overwhelming. She had to be a mother, a father, a provider, and still find the strength to deal with her broken heart. Thomas, with his maturity, tried to be a pillar for his mother and siblings. He threw himself even more into his studies, as if that could bring some relief to the situation. Donald immersed himself in sports, using physical activity as a way to escape reality. But Justin, the youngest, didn't have those outlets. He was just a child trying to understand how someone he loved so much could simply walk away. David's absence created a deep void in the boy's heart. He began to struggle in school with declining grades and constant complaints from teachers about his lack of focus. Nights were the hardest. Frequent nightmares woke him up crying, and anxiety attacks became a part of his routine. Justin repeatedly asked himself, "What did I do wrong for Dad to leave us?" Jennifer watched her children suffer and felt an overwhelming sense of guilt, even though she knew she wasn't to blame for what had happened. She felt powerless, as if the world was collapsing on her shoulders. Work, which had once been a source of fulfillment, became just another obligation she had to face every day to provide for her household. The dark days turned into weeks and months. Jennifer sank into depression, struggling to find reasons to get out of bed. There were moments when the weight of it all felt unbearable. She thought about giving up, but every time she looked into the eyes of Thomas, Donald, and Justin, she found a thread of hope. Her children depended on her, and that truth was what kept her going. Meanwhile, David was fighting his own battles. He had moved in with his new partner, believing he was starting a new life. But the passion that once felt so vibrant quickly faded. Minor disagreements turned into constant arguments, and he began to realize that this new relationship lacked the solid foundation he and Jennifer had built. Over time, the relationship came to an end. David's partner filed for divorce, and he found himself alone once again, this time without any family structure to support him. Regret began to weigh heavily, but the damage was already done. David was directionless, isolated, and unable to fill the void he had created. Meanwhile, Jennifer continued her quiet struggle, carrying her family through the pain and chaos, trying to rebuild something that felt irreparable. Jennifer's rebirth didn't happen overnight. It was a grueling journey filled with ups and downs, where every step forward seemed to require strength she didn't know she had. At the peak of her pain, when everything seemed lost, she made a crucial decision: to fight. Jennifer sought professional help, something that completely changed the course of her life. Therapy taught her to confront the ghosts of her past, cope with the pain of abandonment, and most importantly, recognize her own worth. Over time, she began to care for herself in ways she hadn't in years. Small steps, like taking walks outdoors or dedicating a few minutes a day to a hobby, became symbols of a new chapter. With every therapy session, Jennifer regained the confidence that David had shattered. The weight she carried began to lighten, and she realized she didn't need to be perfect for her children. She just needed to be present. In this process, she showed them that even after the biggest storms, it's still possible to find light. It was during this journey of self-discovery that Brian entered her life. He didn't come as a hero or a magical solution to her problems, but as someone willing to walk alongside her. Brian was different. He saw Jennifer for who she was, a strong, resilient woman whose scars told a story of overcoming. More than loving Jennifer, Brian embraced her family as his own. He never tried to replace David but earned the trust of Thomas, Donald, and Justin with patience and kindness. He became a mentor to the older boys, encouraging Thomas to further explore his academic talents and helping Donald find balance between sports and academics. Justin, however, was the one who benefited the most from Brian's presence. The youngest, deeply affected by past traumas, found in Brian the support figure he desperately needed. Brian listened to him, spent time helping him with schoolwork, and, above all, showed him that trusting someone again was possible. Brian's presence brought stability to the family, something they hadn't felt in years. Jennifer started smiling more often, dreaming of a future that once seemed so far away. The love Brian offered was light, genuine, and transformative. With his support, Jennifer found the strength to move forward and teach her children that real love isn't perfect but is constant and resilient. Brian didn't just help rebuild a family. He proved that there is always a second chance for happiness. This new phase brought back the hope Jennifer thought she had lost. She began to believe in love again, not as an illusion but as something real, built on respect, patience, and truth. More than starting a new story, Jennifer was living a new life, full of possibilities. While Jennifer rebuilt her life and found happiness with Brian, David followed a very different path. He began to reap the bitter consequences of his choices. Loneliness became his closest companion, and regret a constant weight on his conscience. When his relationship with the woman he had left his family for ended, David found himself completely alone. He had destroyed the home he had built with Jennifer and alienated his children, who now had a distant and cautious relationship with him. The house, once filled with laughter and conversation, became a place of oppressive silence. The lifestyle he adopted after the separation began to take its toll. David, once seen as confident and full of energy, now faced serious health issues. He ate poorly, slept little, and often sought relief in alcohol. At 50 years old, he suffered a heart attack, a scare that nearly cost him his life. Following the heart attack came emergency gallbladder surgery. Each hospital visit was a painful reminder of the consequences of his choices. Not just emotional but physical as well. David began to realize that he had lost more than just a family. He had lost respect for himself. The pain of regret was constant. He asked himself over and over how things could have been different if he had valued what truly mattered. But some decisions, even if forgiven, leave scars that time cannot erase. Despite everything, his children chose not to hold on to resentment. They, who had been deeply hurt, decided to follow their mother's example and not let the past define their future. Thomas, Donald, and Justin began visiting him occasionally. They brought words of comfort, helped with small tasks, and even shared bits of their lives. However, their relationship never returned to what it once was. There was an emotional distance that David knew he could never fully bridge. He felt the emptiness in their formal conversations and the absence of the trust that had once come naturally between them. David realized that, although it was too late to restore what he had destroyed, he could still learn from his mistakes. He tried to find peace in the small things and in the rare moments he shared with his children. But when he looked at what his life had become, he couldn't avoid the overwhelming sense that it could have been so different. David hadn't just lost a family. He lost the chance to live a full and happy life alongside the people who had loved him the most. Now he lived with the awareness that our choices shape our future and that some lessons only come when the damage has already been done. Today, many years later, life moves forward. Jennifer and Brian live happily in a home filled with love and laughter. Thomas is an engineer. Donald has become a sports coach, and Justin, after overcoming many challenges, is now a psychologist helping children with family trauma. David, on the other hand, lives alone in a small house in the countryside. He stays in touch with his children and, even while living with regret, tries to find peace in the little things. He knows that his choices shaped his future, and that hard lesson is something he carries with him every day. In the end, love, truth, and justice prevailed. Jennifer found the happiness she deserved. The children grew into strong adults, and David, despite everything, had the chance to reflect and seek redemption. Let this story serve as a powerful reminder. The choices we make today determine the destiny of tomorrow. It is never too late to change, but we should never underestimate the impact our actions have on the lives of those we love.